Thanks, Mio.
No worries. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. As mentioned, this is our session today where we will be giving you some insights into our engineering work experience and internship course opportunities for the college. My name is Janelle Ireland. I'm from the Student Employability and Experience team. Just as we get started, I'd like to acknowledge and celebrate the First Peoples, the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, the traditional owners of the land on which I sit today. You may be joining from other places around Canberra or the country or even the nation. And I'd encourage you to consider the traditional owners of the lands on which you are present today and pay respects to the elders past and present. In the session today, we will be joined, we have the academics who are running our engineering work experience and internship course with us. They will be taking us through an overview of each of those course opportunities. We'll also be speaking about how to go about engaging in these opportunities, how to conduct some really hopefully positive and successful job search. And we're very fortunate as well that we are joined by some of our KEX students, graduates, who can share their experiences with us. To get started, however, I will introduce the folks that will be joining us in the session today. I mentioned that I'm Janelle from the Employability and Experience team, and I have my colleague Mio Nguyen here with us today. Our team we'll go into a little bit later about what our team does and how we support students. I'd also like to briefly hand over to my colleagues who are joining us here today to do a brief introduction to each other or to us all. Joe, perhaps I might start with you. Do you want to do a brief introduction of who you are and what brings you here?
No worries. Thanks, Janelle. Hi, everyone. So my name's Joe Coventry. I am the convener of the engineering internship program, and I am also an academic here at ANU. I work in high temperature solar thermal energy storage, things like that.
Great, thanks, Joe. Ben?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Ben Lu. So I'm the co-convener of ENGN3100 in semester 1. So I'm also a research fellow at ANU. So my research about mathematical modeling of large-scale integration of solar and wind energy supported by energy storage. Nice to meet you all.
Great. And Faye? Sorry, my apologies.
All right. Hi all. My name is Thế Dương. I'm a research fellow in the School of Engineering. I'm working in the photovoltaic, and I will be the course convener in semester 2 for the 3100 course. Nice to meet you all.
And we have Armando with us as well.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, my name is Armando Fontalvo, and I am the tutor for the practical experience course, ENGN3100, for this semester. I'm also a PhD student. Actually, Joe is one of my supervisors, and I'm working in also the solar thermal group.
Oh, that's fantastic! Some great crossover there. So, as I mentioned, today we will have the opportunity to delve into our work experience requirements and our engineering internship course and opportunities to hear from some of our graduates a little bit later on. At this stage, I will hand over to our conveners for the engineering work experience. So you've just heard there. So I'll hand over to Ben, if you would like to. Fantastic. Take it away.
Yeah, so hello everyone. So welcome to our ENGN3100 information session. So I'm Bindu, I'm the code convener in semester 1. And it's my pleasure to be here with my colleagues in this course. So Dr. Dedong will be the code convener in semester 2. And our tutor is Amandu. So firstly, we would like to acknowledge and celebrate the first Australian on whose traditional land we meet and pay our respect to the elders past and present. So, as code convener, I have read lots of excellent work experience reports. So these are some examples. As you can see, the first one is image convolutions for event cameras by Zivi Wang at Australian Center for Robotic Vision. And the second one is modeling of structural building elements by Keith Dwyer at Advanced Structure Design. And third one is 3D CAD modeling of fruit benches evacuation machines by Nararamit at Malaysian Palm Oil Board. And today we have a student panel who will present afterward. So thank you, David and Georgia. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. So how do I get most out of the practical experience course? So firstly, be curious. See, this is an opportunity to explore what exists in modern engineering world and what job options exist and what would I like to do with my skills learned from my university studies. It is important to figure out what do you want. So search for opportunities that match your interest. This will increase your motivation and you will literally enjoy the work experience. And view this as a chance to see how work after studies could look like instead of taking the first opportunity that appears. And remember to plan ahead. So what do I want to achieve during this work experience? What the requirement of my employer and what's the requirement of this course? So there are 8 steps to complete your work experience to complete ENGN3100. And step 1 is to understand the process. So engineering students are required to undertake 12 weeks, 420 hours of practical work experience outside university. So a minimum of 8 weeks should be in an engineering environment under the supervision of an accredited engineer. And the remaining 4 weeks can be in any sort of employment. So question 1, what is an accredited engineer? So normally we consider engineer who has an engineering degree or a science degree with engineering work experience to be eligible for the supervisor role. The logic is that engineering degrees are accredited by Engineers Australia or by equivalent institute in countries other than Australia. So in other words, to claim your work experience as engineering work, you will need to work with or directly supervised by accredited engineer. So if you are not able to work with accredited engineer, your work experience can only be counted as long engineering work up to 140 hours, so 1/3 of the 420 hours. And please read information about this course at our NU website to ensure that you understand the whole process. And in which semester will you finish your 12-week work experience? Plan to enroll in that semester and submit your report. So there are 2 questions. So the first question is when to undertake an engineering internship, and the second question is when to enroll in the course ENGN3100. So for engineering internship, the work experience can be undertaken at any time during your study at NU. So that means all work experience claimed must have been completed after the commencement of your degree. And for enrollment in ENGN3100, you must have successfully completed at least 48 units of university course. So there are two timelines, one for work placement and one for enrollment. They are different. So step 2, to arrange a placement. To identify the type of experience you wish to undertake, apply for advertised opportunity and then make a direct approach to company of interest to you. Refer to resources and service provided by our CAP student employability team and ANU Career Center to assist with such as job search, networking, preparing a CV, and interview preparation. And it would be best if you can discuss with your potential employer about how the placement can meet Engineering Australia Stage 1 competencies. So what are Engineering Australia Stage 1 competencies? So basically, there are 3 categories in Stage 1 competencies. But in this course, we only cover competency 3, which is professional and personal attributes. So as you can see from this slide, there are 6 attributes. So 3.1, ethical conduct and professional accountability. So for example, code of ethics or IP protection, IP arrangement. And 3.2, effective oral and written communication in professional and lay domains. And 3.3, creative, innovative, and proactive demeanor. This is not mandatory. And 3.4, professional use and management of information. And 3.5, orderly management of self and professional conduct. So for example, time management, risk management, network management to achieve your objective and goals in your work placement. And 3.6, effective team membership and leadership. So those are the attributes, professional and personal attributes we require to be demonstrated in your work experience. So there is the information letter from us, and you can provide it to your potential employer to explain the requirement of this course. So this is a copy of the letter. So you can see the attributes, personal and professional attributes already included in this information letter. And apart from this, we also require a few documents from employer. So there are 5 documents we would require from the employer. So a letter of declaration, a letter of offer of employment, a letter confirming claims made within report, a feedback form, and a student placement risk assessment form if you are not being employed or paid. So I would suggest you provide this information letter to your potential employer before the work placement to make sure that all these attributes will be demonstrated in your work placement. And step 3, when you are ready, please apply for work experience pre-approval. So if you intend to undertake a placement to be counted toward this course, please email the information to us at ENGN3100 email with following information before you commence employment. So this information includes company name, address, and website. So information about the company, the name of workplace supervisor, contact and email, the information about the supervisor, and description of the type of work to be performed, and date, start and end date of your intended placement. And we will let you know if your placement is approved. And please remember to keep the offer from your employer because it will be needed in your report later. And also, it would be useful if you can also let us know whether your proposed work placement is paid or unpaid. So we will have you contact our CAD student employability team if your work placement is to be unpaid. So we don't recommend unpaid practical experience. However, we recognize that in some situations, you may not be able to obtain paid practical experience. So if your placement is to be unpaid, you will not be covered by the organization's insurance. And we can arrange ANU insurance for you to make sure that there are appropriate insurance arrangements during your work placement. To apply for ANU insurance, you will need to ask your supervisor to complete and sign the student placement risk assessment form. And then you will need to send this form to ENGN3100 email and also student employability team. You will also need to get a copy of the organization's workplace health and safety policy and procedure. And these are the documents we require to help you arrange for ANU insurance coverage. Please remember, you must wait until you receive the insurance confirmation letter from ANU before you commence your placement. And if you are undertaking work experience overseas, please keep track of your traveling. So we need the proof in the form of passport entry and leaving or actual flight ticket. So booking confirmation is not sufficient because it can be cancelled at any time. And please double check with CAD student employability team if insurance or annual travel approval is required. So if you are currently in Australia and would like to travel overseas to undertake an overseas work placement, you will need to double check with our student employability team regarding insurance and ANU travel approval. But if you are currently in a country other than Australia, you can undertake a local work placement to complete the course in ENGN3100. And also remote internships are also acceptable as long as it meets the course requirement. But remember, in all the cases, please send through the information about your work placement to ENGN3100 email to apply for pre-approval. This is mandatory. And when you're undertaking your work placement, make sure that you and your employer record the hours you work. It can be done manually, such as recorded in a diary or journal, or electronically through spreadsheet or using an app such as Record My Hours app. And if you have legal issues or emergency in the work placement, a lawyer from ANUSA, ANU Student Association legal service team can offer free and confidential legal advice. So this advice can be on a range of issues like IP protection or agreements with employers. And also if you need any kind of format, feel free to let us know. And when you finish your work placement, obtain a letter of employment from your employer detailing the duration of your work placement, the nature of your work, and your supervisor's name and position details. And this is required for each placement. We are counting toward 12 weeks total. And get a feedback form from your employer to be signed by your employer. This is a copy of the feedback form. As you can see, this will include your supervisor's opinion on your overall performance, your major strength, and recommendation for your future career. I think this would be very useful because you will learn your supervisor's opinion on your work placement, on your performance. And please inform your employer that a signed letter confirming claims made within the report will be needed from them once the report is written. So step 8, the last step is to enroll in the course and submit your report. So once you have completed 12 weeks of work experience, enroll in ENGN3100 in the semester in which you intend to complete and submit your report. It's usually in the semester immediately following your work placement, and write your report according to the requirement of the report template. So all the mandatory documents are required to be included in your report. And this including offer, letter of declaration, stage 1 competency matrix, feedback form, a photocopy of your passport entry and leaving or actual flight ticket boarding pass, for example, an insurance if applicable, and signed letter from your employer confirming claims made within your report. So this is a copy of the signed letter from employers confirming claims. So you can see the key parts, including the information about your work placement, and also to claim this report is a true and accurate account of the work actually performed by you. If you have split the 12 weeks in several work experience for each employer, please fill one form. Okay, and finally, please submit your work experience report via Wordle. The due date for submission will be posted on the Wordle site, and usually in the final week of semester. The due date for summer session is today, 24th of March, and due date for semester 1 is 27th of May. So please remember due date. So can you get extension for report submission? So if you would like to apply for extension for your report submission, please discuss with the course convener. So note that late submission of assessment tasks is usually not accepted after 10 working days after the due date. And so we will assess your report against the personal and professional attributes of Engineering Australia. So if the report satisfies the course requirement, it will be marked as CRS, so course requirement satisfied. Otherwise, it will be marked as RP, result pending. And in this case, we will ask you to revise your work experience report until all the course requirements are met. Remember that successful completion of this course is a prerequisite, it's a necessary requirement for you to graduate from ANU. And there are some frequently asked questions. So, for example, if your work involves confidential information, how can you write the report? So 2 options. Option 1, the course tutor and convener can sign a confidentiality agreement with your company, and all the report will be read by the course convener and tutor only. Option 2, your report can focus more on what is learned from your work placement than on technical details that are confidential. In this case, no confidential information to be included in your report. And if you need legal advice, as I mentioned, so a lawyer from ANUSA Legal Service will be able to help. And if your work experience affected by COVID-19, please contact us to see how we can solve this issue. We might be able to change the due date or support you in other ways. And if you undertake multiple work experience, remember to focus on your engineering work. So the report is about engineering work. For long engineering work experience, you just need to include evidence such as offer, payslip, and emails. Your report is about engineering work experience, a minimum of 8 weeks. So if half-half, you can describe both projects with a bit less details. So remember, all mandatory documents are needed in your work experience report. And there is a guide. So if you undertake the course 3200 internship, there is a guide on how to claim your work experience completed in 3200 to 3100. Okay, so if there's anything unclear, please contact us at ENGN3100 email. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Does anyone have any questions for Ben and his team at this point in time? Feel free to raise your hand if you do. Ben, there was one question about options for extension or deferment in the cases where students perhaps have not been able to meet all of the hours by their expected time frame. You mentioned with COVID that there can be some conversations there. How would you recommend that that's generally handled if a student finds that they have not been able to meet the hours that they require? Would they be looking to change their enrollment to a later session?
Yeah, so 420 hours are mandatory in the course, so you will need to complete the full 420 hours of work experience. But if your work placement affected by COVID-19, so please contact us so we can discuss on a case-by-case basis. It could be an extension of your report submission, or it could be something we can help in multiple ways. So just let us know. So at ENGN3100 email, and we can discuss further.
Fantastic. Yes, I think that's a great suggestion. Just make sure you maintain connection and communication with your course conveners. They are here to help. Another question for recording hours for the non-engineering component, where students are sort of doing the extra 4 weeks in a non-engineering environment. What level of documentation do you require there?
Yeah, the first document should be the offer. So if you undertake multiple non-engineering work experience, you should have multiple offers. And also, we would like to see your emails from your workplace supervisor. And sometimes students using their payslips as evidence. So in general, for non-engineering work experience, we just need proof.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ben. We might hand over to Joe Coventry now. As Ben mentioned, engineering 3200 engineering internship can be counted towards your practical experience requirement, but you can also undertake it in a completely different environment and with a different employer if you've already undertaken your work experience requirements. I'll hand over to Joe.
Thanks, Janelle. Can you see the screen okay now?
We can.
Yes.
Great, no worries. All right, so 3200, I've also mentioned 6200 because we also offer the engineering internship program to master's students. Well, just sort of following on from Ben, as you're no doubt aware, in attending this session, we have both the work experience program and the internship program. So often one of the first points of confusion is, what's the difference and why do we have 2 programs and things like that. So let me just address that a little bit up front. The key difference, of course, is that the internship program counts for course credit. So as a result of that, we have, I guess, some stricter requirements in terms of eligibility. There's a minimum grade, etc., which I'll come to in a minute. You need to be able to fit it into your program. You can do it in lieu of doing some of your electives. So we do have quite higher expectations in terms of your learning outcomes, which is what I'm going to talk about in a minute. It also brings with it, I guess, some benefits, particularly for you, but also for your employer. because there's probably more flexibility about when you can do it. You can do it during semester because, of course, it's counting for course credit, and for some employers that's really handy. And we've had, you know, quite a number of students who have, you can do it for up to 24 units, as I mentioned on the page here, which is a full semester. So you can potentially, you know, be working at a company, you know, for 6 months or something like that, and still getting course credit. But, you know, also for some employers, it's important to have a big slab of work. So that's a little bit of a blurb about kind of the difference, but let's just go through it now, sort of a bit more systematically. So, well, I guess the overriding aim is for you to develop your engineering skills and practice through a workplace placement, and, you know, just understanding how the skills that you're learning in your courses can be used and practically applied. I often get feedback from students that say, "Oh, well, this was really great. I actually used all these things," almost with a surprised tone in their voice. But actually, you'll find through this that, you know, you do use some of your skills, and hopefully through, you know, learning on the job, learn a whole lot more new skills. And that's the whole sort of point of this kind of professional practice, through both the 3100 and the 3200. As I mentioned, 3200, the internship program counts for course credit. You can take it for up to 24 units, but you can also count it for 6 units, 12 units, or 18 units. I've listed here the learning outcomes. You can also read these on the course website, but just going through them, as I said, applying your existing engineering knowledge to workplace type situations, and identifying new knowledge, and hopefully learning and gaining those skills and applying those skills in the workplace. The ability to apply your knowledge to the job that you're working in. The next one is about, it touches on the Stage 2 Engineering Australia technical competencies, which I'm going to spend a whole lot more time on the next slide, but because this is really how we do assessment of this internship program. And I guess it's one of the things that sort of, I guess maybe differentiates a little bit this internship program from the work experience program, in that we have to do the assessment, and the way we do it is we assess how you develop against these Stage 2 competencies. So I'll come back to that in a minute, and you'll see I'll go on about that quite a lot. And of course, you know, just having this experience of working gives you time to think about what you want to do, gives you a chance to sort of reflect on, you know, where you'd like to go going forward, which skills you'd like to develop. So it's sort of reflective a bit as well. You get sort of experiences you might not otherwise get if you were just working through your regular courses at the uni. So we do see it as very valuable. And of course, for you, it's potentially a way of getting a job in the end. It gives you a chance to look at a particular employer, and it gives them a chance to have a look at you. And many of our interns go on to work at the companies that they do their internship at the completion of their degree. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about these Engineers Australia Stage 2 competencies. So the Stage 2 competencies are what are used by Engineers Australia to, when you're a senior engineer and when you're going for your chartered engineering status. As Bing mentioned in his presentation, Stage 1 competencies are what, you know, you're probably used to seeing them. They're what all your courses are mapped against. And when you graduate, you should be, you know, a stage 1. You should have those Stage 1 competencies. It's how Engineers Australia measure all the degrees in Australia. Stage 2 is how they measure when you go to being a chartered engineer. Now, we don't expect our interns to all be at Stage 2. You know, maybe if they've been working in the workplace for 5 years or so, they'll approach Engineers Australia and they'll try and show that they meet all of these competencies. But what we do is we have in the assessments, we have a way that you can make what we call make claims towards those stage 2 competencies. And I'm looking for, through those assessments, that you're making progress and, you know, progressing your skills against these stage 2 competencies. So what are they? Just reading them out here, going down the list. Dealing with ethical issues, practicing competently, responsibility for engineering activities, developing safe and sustainable solutions, engaging with the relevant community and stakeholders, identifying, assessing and managing risks, meeting legal and regulatory requirements, communication, performance, taking action, judgment, advanced engineering knowledge, local engineering knowledge, problem analysis, creativity and innovation, and evaluation. So as you can see, they're not discipline-specific skills. They're the more, I guess, the softer skills or the more generic skills that would apply to any engineering discipline. And against every single one of these, there's this document, I'll wave it around in front of you. You can have a look at it, just Google it, stage 2 competencies. And against every single one of these competencies, there's a great big long list of what they call indicators of attainment. So I've just picked out 2 at random here to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So for example, for identifying, assessing and managing risks, the indicators of attainment are things like, well, identifying, assessing and managing project, process, environmental and system risks. It might be doing things like a documented audit trail of technical and operational changes, following a systematic documented method, assessing the likelihood of risk, etc. You've probably done risk analysis work in your degree, and so you're familiar with all these types of things. They're the kind of, you know, if you're doing those types of things in your placement, they're indicators that you are sort of, you know, working towards identifying, assessing and managing risks. And I'll talk in a minute about how that weaves then into your reporting and assessment items. Another one, just for example, is judgment. Well, what is judgment? Well, there's some examples here that Engineers Australia give. Dealing decisively with engineering activities which have significant consequences, supervising, monitoring and evaluating progress of technical work, diagnosing performance deficiencies, negotiating appropriate remedial measures, seeking appropriate advice, deciding whether to proceed or suspend work, i.e. exercising judgment. So these are just examples of how, of indicators of attainment of these things. And there's a similar list for every single one of these elements of competence. So what we do when we move to the assessment items, there's 2 main assessment items that you need to do. They're submitted at the end of your internship, 3 weeks after you complete your internship. There's a journal and there's a report, which count 20%, 60% as shown here. And the way that they're set out, there's on Wattle, there's templates and examples of good reports, etc. For each of these things. But the way we set things out, there's a particular format where you're able to make claims towards these stage 2 competencies. And I've just got a little, it's a bit fuzzy here, but it gives you the idea. There's a little sidebar here. This is an example of a journal. This is an example of the report in the report template. And you can make claims towards these stage 2 competencies. And I guess that's what I'm looking for as the convener and examiner in this case. I'm looking for your development against these stage 2 competencies. It doesn't need to be every single one, it's just a selection of them. And that's how I kind of assess your progress and your learning outcomes for this course. So I'm looking for that more, I guess, than how amazing the widget was that you invented. There's also an industry supervisor report. I haven't shown it here, but it's pretty much a 15-minute job for your supervisor. It's mainly checkboxes and a little bit of feedback. So that's also due at the very end of your internship. And one tip is that I like, that, as I said, there's a template for the journal, but one of the things with the journal is that I like it when you keep it quite regularly. It doesn't need to be every single day, but a good habit to get into is to just take a few notes at the end of every day. Here's an example of one which spans a couple of days, talks about a few things they did. It can be a lot more informal, but you're still making claims against some of the things. And it's also a very useful tool once you get to the very end, so you actually remember what you did, and you can just then document it in your final report. Once you get into Wattle, you'll also notice there's these things called reflection items. They're for your benefit, to sort of help you, prompt you to think about the experience that you're having, both at the start and later in the process. But I just wanted to point out that they're not assessed, and so therefore they're not, they are optional. Like Ben, I'll go through the different steps that are required if you're thinking about doing an internship. I mentioned eligibility. We only offer the internship program to our better performing students. There is a minimum GPA of 5. So these are the sort of steps that you should do to start out with. You should confirm that you've got your right GPA, that you have completed a minimum of 96 units if you're in the engineering program, or if you're in the postgraduate program, 48 units, and that you have space in your program. As I said, you can take it between 6 to 24 units. Actually, down in the box at the bottom here, you can see how many hours of internship that corresponds to. You then should contact the student services team and ask to check whether you are eligible. So you can ask them if you've got space in your program, and that you can fit it into a particular teaching period that you intend to enrol in. And I guess one of the things I really want to emphasize is you need to do this in advance of the teaching period that you wish to enrol in, at least 4 weeks, preferably more, because it takes, as you'll see in the following pages, there's a few steps that we need to go through in this internship program. And, you know, we had a lot of people this year, for example, in first semester sort of approach us in the week before, or even during the first week of semester. And it causes a bit of a administrative nightmare. And I can see a lot of nodding from you there. And what it actually will end up happening is you'll sort of miss the window that when you can enrol in that semester, and you'll have to enrol in a later teaching period. So do come as early as you possibly can to do these processes. So first of all, it's checking eligibility, but it's also, and I'll come to the slide after this, there's also some other steps you should do nice and early. So arranging a placement, we already heard a little bit about, and you'll hear more after me about how you can go about arranging a placement. There's sort of 2 ways that you can get a placement. You can find a job somewhere yourself, or you can, sometimes we advertise particular positions. For example, an employer will come to us and say, we'd like to have an intern this semester. We'll post an ad and you can apply through that. That's the less frequent way, I guess, of getting a position. More often than not, you're bringing your own, you're doing the hard yards and getting a position somewhere yourself. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. Another very key point here is to make, which is different to the work experience program, is that in the internship program, it needs to be a paid position, and that's actually a legal requirement through Fair Work Australia. So there's a particular loophole with regards to compulsory things like the engineering program, but that doesn't apply here. So you will need it to be a paid position. It's good to discuss with your employer once you start talking to them these stage 2 competencies I mentioned, but as I'll talk about on the next slide, I will also do that myself with your employer. So then, having found a job, the next thing you should do is come and have a chat with me. And this is also something I really like you to do early in the piece. You know, that sort of 4 weeks before you, at least 4 weeks before you want to enrol. Provide me, just send me an email, jot down some of this, as much of this information here as you know. You may not know every single point here, but if you do know them, just jot them down in the email, and we'll arrange to have a chat. And I'll go through the course requirements with you, just like I am today, actually. But I'll specifically talk to you about the role that you're going to undertake. And probably one of my most important roles as convener of this course is to ensure that the role that you've got in mind, that the employer is offering you, is suitable for the internship program. So I need to make sure that it gives you enough, ownership of tasks and a breadth of sort of experiences that allows you to progress towards these stage 2 competencies. I don't want you in a role for this program where you know, you're just over in the corner somewhere sort of turning the handle and you're not getting that sort of that, I guess, that challenge and ownership of tasks. And that's why I always then call up your supervisor and have a chat to them about the role as well, and go through these stage 2 competencies with them and explain what we're trying to do with the program. And sometimes when I have that conversation, they modify a bit. In fact, often they modify a little bit the role that they've got in mind and maybe throw you a bit more in the deep end. And so that's sort of a conversation that we have. I then request from the supervisor a short role description. It can be just a few, you know, a paragraph in an email, and they send that to me. And so that's not something you need to do. You just need to make the introduction to your supervisor, and I'll contact them directly. And once I've approved that role, I then, you know, if I approve that role, then I let everybody involved know about that. And that's why I mentioned doing this in advance, because that's one of the first things I do. Just check that we check the eligibility, we check that the role is suitable. Once we've done that, we need to put into place an agreement letter between the host organisation and the uni. So what happens then is Mio sends out a template for them to review. It's usually fairly non-controversial, but it can take it can take 2 or 3 weeks to get, just for them to get around to it and to maybe have their legal check it and to sign it. And we can't enrol you until that letter is in place. So advance notice, very important. This is not something you need to do. It's something that we do and look after directly with them, but it's something that can only take place after we've had these initial discussions. And then after all of that, you will be enrolled. You can't just go and enroll yourself. It needs all these approvals and this letter in place. Mio will enroll you in the teaching period, and away you go. So what next? So I'd like to agree with you then, once you're enrolled, I'd like to agree with you when your assessment items are due. As I said, it's usually 3 weeks after the end of your internship. You then go and start your internship. Sometimes you're already there. Often, you know, we get people who've been working at a company for a while and they think, oh, I might go and do this as part of my internship. That's fine, but we agree a sort of starting date and an ending date for the internship, and when the assessment items are due. As I mentioned, keep your journal up to date. If anything concerns you or goes wrong, you can always reach out to me. Sometimes your supervisor likes to have a chat with me and you all together at the start of the internship, sort of an expectation setting sort of exercise, and we do that, and I'm very happy to do that. But it's not compulsory. And then when you finish, as I said, you need to submit your journal report and supervisor's report by the due date. I always do check with the supervisor directly just to confirm that the thing you've sent is actually what they filled in. It's just a due diligence thing, but you should submit the actual documents on Wattle as well. And that's it. Hopefully that was all nice and clear. If not, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Joe. Does anyone have any questions at this time for Joe? Well, you can feel free to reach out to Joe via email if any questions pop up afterwards. But otherwise, then I think we will move on to the next part of the session where Mio will speak a little bit about our team, how we can support you, and how you can go about identifying some employment opportunities to meet your work experience and internship requirements.
Thank you, Janelle. Hi, everyone. My name is Myun Yuen. Like Janelle has mentioned, Janelle and I are from CAC's Student Employability and Experience team. Our team helps students with ways to increase their employability, how to find or search for opportunities, and how to engage with employers. You can contact us anytime at the email address here. We'll be sharing these slides with you, so you don't need to copy or write them down. We can give you an appointment if you need to have a chat. And I will quickly go over how you could undertake job search. So, okay. We have listed here some great job search websites for you. We would like to recommend that you use ANU Career Hub as your first go-to job search site. We are moving toward advertising all the opportunities via ANU Career Hub. On this ANU Career Hub, you can locate internships, work experience, casual jobs, part-time jobs, graduate programs. So it's a great place for you to search for opportunities. Please do make a habit of checking Career Hub regularly so that you don't miss out on great opportunities. Another great spot, probably we hope that you are familiar with this site, is CAC's Student Current Opportunities page. We advertise opportunities there for our students. Please also make sure you check your engineering portal sites. There's one for undergrad and one for postgrad. We normally post opportunities that we come across over there for you. We've also listed some other useful job search sites for you here. I just want to mention, for example, Engineer Australia's jobs board. It's a fantastic place for you to look for engineering work experience or internship opportunities. Another thing is, most of our students, all our undergraduate engineering students, get a free membership for Engineers Australia, and it's a great professional association. I believe some of the master students can get free membership as well. I encourage you to go and check out Engineer Australia's website and see whether you'll be eligible to get a free membership, and please do join. Like Engineer Australia's, there are also other great professional associations out there that may be operating in the engineering fields that you are interested in. So you can do some search and see whether you can join a few different professional associations. Great thing about joining professional association is it can bring so many benefits to you. You can find job opportunities there. Also, there are a lot of networking opportunities where you can meet employers, other great connections, which will later benefit when you are about to go into the workforce. These professional associations also offer professional development programs and also programs like mentoring programs. So please make sure you check out different professional associations out there and then try to join them and then take the most benefit out of those associations. We will also like to remind you that our team circulate Student Opportunities newsletter, which is a monthly newsletter, and you get this newsletter via your ANU email account. And we always include different opportunities there for our students. So keep your eyes out for Student Opportunities newsletter as well. We just want to mention, don't limit yourself by just following traditional job search methods. We believe trying a targeted approach in job search actually will give you a greater success. So there are a few other ways to find jobs outside of the traditional methods. One of them is direct approach. What you will need to do is you will need to do some search and trying to identify companies and organizations operating in the engineering fields that you are interested in. And then do more search on those companies. And if you think you would be really keen to work for them, you approach them, contact them directly, and then you can express your interest. Just let them know that you will like to do work experience with them. Many of the organizations are so open to this, so please do think of using this approach. Another where to find work experience or internship or other opportunities using your network. Make sure you speak to your family, friends, lecturers, conveners, classmates. Talk to them about what type of work experience or engineering internship you are interested in, what you are looking for, and just ask them for suggestions. You never know, they might know some companies or someone that you can reach out to. We encourage all our students to set up a LinkedIn account as well. With LinkedIn, you can follow the organizations that you would like to work for or you are interested in. And a lot of organizations post opportunities through their LinkedIn site as well. Another really key important point is make sure you build your relationships. Make sure you keep your relationships strong with your lecturers, conveners, research supervisors, classmates. Always let them know what you are interested in so that if the right opportunities come up, they will remember to contact you and let you know. ANU careers have lots and lots of resources that you can use for career planning, job applications, and interviews. So please take your time and check out ANU Careers link. ANU also have a really great tool called Careers Toolkit. Please make sure you check out Careers Toolkit. It's got so many amazing tools and resources. The tools there like CV 360, where you can simply drop your CV and then this tool assess your CV and give you feedback. You can drop there as many times as you want, and then you will get the feedback, and then you can improve your CV. There are other really great tools on there as well, like Cover Letter Builder and Interview 360, where you can practice interviews. So please do take your time to check out Careers Toolkit if you haven't been on this tool before. ANU career consultants can also advise you on career planning. They can give you feedback on your CV, and they can give you tips with the interview preparations. So you can make an appointment with ANU Careers team. You can make an appointment via either Career Hub, or you can email them directly. Another great thing is that ANU Careers team normally offer different workshops. There could be workshops on interview or job applications or career planning. So please make a habit of checking ANU Career Hub because ANU Career teams advertise all these workshops and events via ANU Career Hub. Our team, CAC Student Employability and Experience, can also guide you on how to find work experience and internships, how to look for opportunities, and how to build your employability. So if you would like to have a chat or have an appointment with us, please just email us, and then we can organize an appointment either face-to-face or online for you. So that is just a few general tips and general information about how to find opportunities. And now Janelle is going to introduce our graduate speakers who will be going over tips and other things that you should know about work experience and internships. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mio. And just a point, an idea triggered as Mio was speaking. We've mentioned for the engineering work experience requirements and even for the engineering internship when we are self-sourcing your opportunities. These opportunities you may find through advertised full-time internship or summer vacation jobs. You may find them through casual job opportunities that are advertised through the year. So one important thing to remember with your job search is don't just search for something that says work experience. Keep your eyes open to the range of opportunities that employers and the industry have available for students. So Mio's mentioned Career Hub. The ANU Careers team are hosting a number of careers events and employers on campus at the moment across the next couple of months. This is recruitment season for summer vacation and internship opportunities. They're not the only opportunities. Many organizations, particularly small to medium enterprises, may advertise towards the approach of summer. But if you are in your second or third year of your engineering studies, I highly encourage you to look out for formal summer vacation or summer internship opportunities that may be of interest to you, because you could find that those applications could be closing very soon. So as Mio mentioned, we're very fortunate today to have a few of our recent graduates joining us to share their experiences. I'm conscious of times, and I'd love to make sure that we get everybody's input and stories. So I'll very quickly introduce David, Angela, and Georgia before we get into some questions. So Mia, if we can have, might start with David, have David slide up there. David, I'll just get you to very, very quickly introduce yourself to the folks here today.
Yeah, sounds good. Hi, I'm David. Did engineering at the ANU, just graduated end of last year. Did my engineering internship at Cochlear, and now currently a research assistant at UNSW.
Fantastic. Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela. So I did my internship at Clearbox Systems. So that was just for 3100, and I also recently just finished my internship at Deloitte. And I currently still work at Clearbox Systems.
Wonderful. We did hear that that many times work experience opportunities and internship opportunities can lead to full-time employment. So that's great. Love to hear a bit more about that later, Angela. And Georgia.
Hi, I did my internship at Penn 10 doing systems engineering, and I'm still at Penn 10 doing RF and electronics engineering. I graduated last year.
Wonderful, fantastic. Some great various examples of some of the great employers that are engaging and connect with our students. Very quickly for our panel, what stage of your degree or your studies did you undertake your experience that you've mentioned? Feel free to jump in.
In my third or fourth year.
Yeah.
I extended my degree, so I graduated after 5.5 years. It's about my third and fourth year, I believe. It's been a while.
Yes, I did mine in the summer of my fourth year. So like between my fourth and fifth year. Yeah, so I started looking at the start of my fourth year out of a 5-year degree.
I'm similar to Angela. I did mine in the summer of between the fourth and fifth year, and then beginning into the fifth year semester. And I was doing a 5-year degree.
Right, yeah. I think that seems to be fairly typical, and it tends to follow what employers tend to look for when they are offering internships. They prefer for students to have a little bit of their technical knowledge under their belts, so it's less likely to be able to find first-year opportunities. It's not impossible, but certainly if we've got any first-year students here, it's a great opportunity now to start to think about how you can prepare yourselves for something that might be potentially in your second, third, or fourth, depending on people like David, maybe doing 5 years. For our panel today, how did you go about finding the opportunity that you ended up counting towards your either work experience or internships? Angela, did you want to start off?
Yeah, so mine just involved a lot of searching. So I definitely checked out all the websites that were mentioned before, like Grad Connection, Seek. I found that the KEX newsletter and employment opportunities was really useful. So I found out about Clearbox Systems from there. So that was done through the Defense Industry Internship Placement Program. So you're matched with a company in your state, and it's all like blind, so they don't know who they're getting or who you're getting until sort of the very end. So you get the sort of best fit for what you want and your technical skills in that. And I started looking around this time of the year, so it's recruitment season. So I find there were both opportunities around this time. And so I was attending like careers fairs. The Innovation ACT holds lots of networking sessions if you're interested in startups, and I went to one of those and found some opportunities there. And I also looked a lot on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Georgia, did you follow a similar approach?
No, I didn't actually. I used my networks. My mum actually knows one of the co-founders of Pen 10, and so I reached out to him and then got onto their HR team and set up a meeting and kind of just went from there, went through a couple interviews with some of the team, and then they kind of ended up creating a role for me because a lot of their interns were doing more coding and such, whereas I didn't know enough coding. So I went into the systems engineering kind of field. And then, yeah, basically went from there.
That's great. Perfect example of how networking and connections can benefit. I often hear from students who say, well, I don't know anyone, my mum doesn't work in the industry, or I don't know anyone who works in the field. But I think we're very fortunate in Canberra that people are very connected, and it's not a huge place, but we're very connected and quite professional city. So don't hold back in talking to as many people as you can, whether it's at networking events, as Angela mentioned, or if it's just to your peers in class or your conveners. The more that you can let people know what type of opportunities you're looking for and how your job search is going, the more you're likely to find that people will have suggestions or recommendations that you can then follow up and chase. So it might be quite common to feel like, oh, I don't know anyone who works in an engineering company, but the chances are, sort of 4 or 5 degrees of separation in Canberra that somebody will know someone who is working in a field of interest to you. And David, how about you? How did you go about your search?
Yeah, so to get my position at Cochlear, I actually met them at one of the careers fairs well before I actually started. So I believe it was in my second year before I went on exchange. I met my soon-to-be boss and just mentioned I was really interested in working there. And so I think that got my name on the radar. Mm-hmm. And then when I submitted my application, I think because I already mentioned it earlier, they pulled my name out and then did relatively well in the testing and the interviews. So I was fortunate enough to get a job. But yeah, so I guess for those of you that don't have personal connections or don't think you have personal connections, it's entirely possible to go through just by meeting people and just asking what's up and, just presenting yourself nicely.
I mentioned, David, that when you did that, as you say, you were able to say, I really like the idea of working at Cochlear. So it sounds like you had a little bit of an understanding of who they were as an organisation or what they did. Would that be right? Yeah,
that would be right, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew beforehand what they did, who they were, but I was in my second year. So I think he was like, you're a bit early. So, come back next year, but we're really keen to meet you.
Wonderful. Perfect example of how making a great impression can get you the results you want, maybe not immediately, but down the track as well. Talking to organizations and employers at careers fairs or industry events is a great way for you to find out what those organizations do. However, if you do a little bit of preparation first, if you have an opportunity to find out who the company's going to be or who's going to be at those events, do a bit of research first. So then you can be on the front foot, and rather than coming up to an organization, an employer, and say, so what do you do? you can instead turn that on its head and say, I've been reading about Cochlear recently, or I was looking at this research, or I understand there's some alignment with what I'm studying and what you do. I'd be really interested in exploring opportunities to make a contribution or to work with you one day. It shifts the conversation and it shows that you are proactive and that you're interested. Can't always do that, which is fine, still strike up a conversation, but try to find some connections where you can link into your conversation about how that relates to something you're personally interested in or something that you're studying. Moving on with the questions. Reflecting on the experiences that you had, or for some of you used to working with those organizations, what do you think was the most beneficial part of getting that experience?
I can start.
What did you get to do on a day-to-day basis? What did that teach you?
I guess I'm going to go a bit off kilter here, but I thought, I worked there for 6 months, so I think I got a really good flavor of what it was like working at like a systems engineering firm in Cochlear. And I really enjoyed working with the people, but it also kind of taught me that maybe that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, but also it taught me like some really valuable skills, like, working with people, working in teams. How else would I put it? A lot of how the industry operates as well. I think that was really insightful because as a student, normally you come in and, you've learned all these kind of skills or learnings within class, but then, you start putting it to application and then it's just like, to be honest, it's like a completely different ball game. Like you take what you learn and then you have to run with it when you put it into application as well. So a lot of growing there, but I think it's really useful overall.
I like that that comment that you make there, David, about that growth that's required. Perhaps Angela and Georgia, when you speak about sort of what you got out of your experience, if you can also sort of reflect on, how much of an adjustment phase there was in that first experience.
Yeah, I actually think I had quite a similar experience. So when I first started working at my current job, I was doing a lot of coding. And I decided that I don't want to code for my job. And so that was really great because it did really help me upskill and learn these technical skills like really fast because I was in quite a small company. So there's always work to do and you always learn like such a breadth of experiences. Like you don't just get siloed into doing like one thing. It's like there's work to be done and someone needs to do it. So you're the one that has to do it. So that was really great. And I sort of learned to like a really wide range of like different things. Like I had like 20 people in my company when I started. And so when I sort of finished my internship and they were asking me if I wanted to stay on and like what sort of work I'd be interested in doing, I knew what I didn't want to do. And I sort of also knew what I did want to do because I got exposed to like everyone else in the team and what they do and what the rest of the company does. So that was really great and really valuable. And I guess one other really valuable aspect was obviously like my soft skills. So learning how to interact in a team, how to, deliver your work to a higher quality and understanding the review process that goes on there and like how to tell people that you're like done with work. So, can you give me another piece of work, or how to navigate any tricky interactions in the workplace that might occur. Yeah.
Sounds like it was a very valuable experience. Georgia, do you have some comments or can add from your experience?
Yeah, it's probably similar to both of Angela's and David's experiences. I initially did systems engineering, so I was kind of using what you kind of learn in uni, but kind of getting thrown in the deep end, kind of just being pushed onto projects and being like, write requirements, and I'm here like, I don't even know what this project is. So it was definitely a lot of learning initially, kind of getting thrown in the deep end and kind of just figuring out as you go along. I definitely was scared when I first started that I didn't know enough, but I found that by doing stuff, then you learn quite quickly. I also found out that systems engineering was not what I wanted to do in the future, hence why I'm now doing electronics and RF engineering. But I did have exposure to those teams when I was doing my systems engineering, because you do work with most teams within the company. So it was really good to have that exposure and to figure out that, yes, that's actually what I want to do with my career.
It's fantastic, and I think it's a perfect example of, you know, you can't possibly know ahead of time until you start to gain experience and see yourself in those positions and do the work on a day-to-day basis. It can give you those insights into where my strengths are. What do I enjoy doing most? Joe, it looks like you've got some comments you want to make.
Oh no, well, I think it's. I just wanted to echo that. I think just it's about, that's really part of the development process that we hope that you have. I just did want to also say that I think I did a little survey of all the students that have had coming through Engineering 3200 over the years I've convened it. I think about 50% of them go on to work for the company that they worked in. So you obviously get interns who really do find their niche and things that they want to do, and you get, just so happens the three all on the call today are the ones who decided, you know, had a different, you know, good experience, but you know, were able to make different decisions about their forward direction. So it goes both ways. That's something I just wanted to know.
Absolutely. Has anyone, any of our audience here today got any questions that they would like to ask of our speakers? Otherwise, I'm happy to keep asking questions, but I'd love to open it up to others here. If there's anything you'd like to ask either of the whole panel or Angela, David, or Georgia specifically. Nothing yet. So for our panel speakers, I mean, you've had the opportunity now to have those experiences and in a couple of cases, a variety of experiences during your time at ANU, and then you made that transition into the workforce. If you look back and think about yourself sort of, you know, as a first year, or if you were to give some insights to a first year student, you know, what hints or tips or suggestions would you make to them about the whole job search process and transitioning and preparing yourself through making yourself employable and getting ready for employment? What advice would you give?
So my advice would probably be, don't be afraid that you don't know enough. It's okay not to know things. I definitely didn't know everything there was about in systems engineering when I first went in, but learning as you go and just asking lots of questions definitely helps. But also don't be afraid to use your networks. It is okay if you be like, my mum knows the boss. That's fine. It doesn't matter, because then you make a name for yourself while you're there and no one really cares. And, you know, you've just utilized a good connection within your, I don't know, area, I guess.
You want to go, Angie?
Yeah, so I think I'd have a few pieces of advice. The first one, with regards to your job search, like I definitely echo Georgie's sentiment about like not being afraid to use your network. When you start job searching, you realize how many people only got a job because they need someone. Like, it's so common, and I never realized how common it is. So like, don't be afraid or embarrassed about that. And also don't be afraid or embarrassed to have your resume or practice your interview skills, like have your resume reviewed. Like, I was always so embarrassed for someone else like look at my resume or my cover letter, and I never did it, and I never got my jobs, and I always wondered why. But then when I had someone actually look at it, whether it was Keck Student Services, whether it was a friend, whether it was like a sibling, that like my cover letters went like exponentially better, and I was suddenly getting interviews at like places, and I was getting through like the robots and all that. So that's really my like top skill, top tip, I guess, is that everything is always better with a friend. So if you're practicing interviewing, or like you don't know how these tests go, or you want someone to read your cover letter, that's really like one of the best things you can do to improve your chances at getting a job. And then the last question about like sort of working is, I would really focus on your soft skills. So lots of employers, as like if you're looking to do an internship or even a grad job, your university is not going to teach you everything. Like I work in StatCom, which is related to my degree, but like I don't really use much of my knowledge I learned in university. And my company hired me because of my soft skills, and like lots of companies will hire you because of your ability to work in a team, all that sort of stuff, and not so much focus on like your technical skills. So if you have the opportunity to join like a society and like, or like, you know, maybe put that little bit extra into your like teamwork, those are also really useful skills for me to learn.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. How I would put it, to present it a couple of different ways, is one, job searching is really hard. And so you should use every single opportunity available to you. I had a couple grad offers recently, and I know I only got some of them because I went out of my way to ask people for help, and I probably wouldn't have got them otherwise. Two, get involved with other things. Prospective employers don't just want to see really good grades. In fact, if you have like a straight 7, they might even not look at you if you don't have any other co-curricular, because you fit this stereotype of being very smart, but maybe, you know, lacking soft skills, which may not be true. But, you know, get involved with other things, show that you have a life outside university and engineering. I think that's very important, and what employers are looking for most days. Number 3, don't take rejection personally. I know it's hard, but, you know, it's not a reflection on you just per se if you get rejected from a job. That being said, if you're getting constant rejections, then maybe you need to reevaluate your application process and how you're moving through it. But I wouldn't take rejection personally as well. And number 3, I think just enjoy the whole experience. While you're there, it is hard, it is tiring, especially on top of uni. And so just making sure you're coping well along the way so you can bring your best self to the interviews, especially.
What a great note to end on. Thank you, David. I think you've summed up some really key important points there, and Angela and Georgia as well. I'm mindful of time. Last opportunities for anyone to ask an extra question of any of our speakers today. You should know now how you can get in contact with Ben and the team with questions about Engineering 3100, with Joe for questions on 3200. Feel free to reach out to Mio and myself if you have questions related to the administrative elements of any of those courses, but also if you would like some further guidance and assistance with your job search and exploring your opportunities. And I would very much like to thank, and David's kindly shared his LinkedIn connection for everybody. So if you haven't got a LinkedIn profile, I'd highly encourage you to set one up. It's a great way to help with your networking and make connections and build on those as well. So thank you especially to David, Angela, and to Georgia for joining us today. I wish that we'd had a whole hour that we could explore your experience in more detail, and I'd love to have you back if you're up for it at a later stage. we have no further questions at this point in time. So I will wish everybody a great day and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
And if anyone has any further questions, feel free to ping me and let me know.
Oh, thank you, David.
That's okay.
Excellent.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.